Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships for our Friday highlight, which is going to be a bit different today in two ways. One, we're not doing it in randoms battle, we're actually going to be doing it in mode shuffle, where there's a little bit more of a brawling action. Not that this is a brawling ship, which I'm about to introduce. And then we're going to have two different videos, each about 9-10ish minutes each. Battles just kind of featuring and showcasing different things and what I've been testing out here with the newest Dockyard edition, which is the Tier 9 Premium cruiser, the Almirante Oquendo. I'm just shooting from the hip there. Being the recent Dockyard ship, equipped with 12 203mm guns. And to sum this ship up in terms of what type of cruiser it is, it's pretty much just a mid to long-range cruiser. Where she relies on playing more at range, and the best way would be essentially to be kiting from the enemy. You'll suffer quite quickly being focused down if you overextend into the enemy team. So this ship doesn't really have, I would say it is no really wow factor with this ship. It's pretty just, it is what it is. I mean, maybe for more of the fans in the game of Spanish ships, maybe you're quite happy with this ship, which awesome if so. But in terms of just the overall play style, if you're looking for something, you know, really fascinating, I don't think you're really going to find it, so to speak, with Almirante Oquendo. That does bring us to talk about the funny button, which you actually saw us just activate, and it is called Combat Capability Modified Shells. So this means that firing the guns with the alternative firing mode will enable her to fire with reduced dispersion, but with increased reload. So your maximum main battery shell dispersion is 20%, so kind of like Deadeye, if you will, Deadeye on a cruiser, but with a reload time of plus 42%. So you don't regularly want to go for the utilizing the combat capability, unless, let's say, it's kind of maybe in one regard you're treating it sort of like burst fire. You catch a broadside, you got AP loaded with the 203mm guns, you want to have a more accurate salvo on a destroyer, you want to be able to, and actually I should have used it right there and I didn't, but he was low enough I wasn't too concerned as we picked up the first kill of the game. Or let's say, you know, you're trying to get a fire set and you're about to go dark, and you're just trying to utilize a little bit more of an accurate salvo as you go dark. As we take a pretty spicy Citadel there, we're not going to worry about DCPing it because we have Last Stand. My memory serves correctly. Maybe we don't. I don't remember. Currently working on getting a high enough point commander here on the ship. So you're actually going to see us take a good bit of potential damage this game. It really comes down to the WASD hacks in terms of turning in and out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we don't have Last Stand because we're just dead in the water. That's, you know, utilizing your rudder shift, utilizing your propulsion. We have the prop mod in the 4th slot. Because this ship doesn't have a lot of armor. You have a 25mm bow in stern, an icebreaker bow that actually has a 50mm icebreaker bow, where like on the tier 10 Castilla, it's actually, that one has a 40mm. But then your deck on the midsection in the upper armor belt is 27mm, and then coming down to the torpedo protection, then kind of the main armor belt, it jumps up to 40, which again is similar to Castilla, but Castilla gets 30mm. So it can withstand a little bit more in terms of not being as overmatched, but I mean 3mm armor isn't a huge significant difference. Now in terms of the Spanish ships so far at the high tier, in terms of the cruisers, I would say I probably like the Almirante Oquendo the best. It might, I'm very frustrated with Castilla, and I'll do a Friday highlight on it, hopefully in another week or two. That cruiser is much bigger. This cruiser is not as big. You get more guns, but I would say the Almirante Oquendo, it's not it's necessarily a bad ship. I think it's an okay ship, but as you take another Citadel there, so 25mm stern. What it suffers in is the competition among other tier 9 cruisers, right? So if I'm comparing her to other tier 9 cruisers, there's a little bit more incentive that maybe I would take a Buffalo. Maybe I would take, what is the tier 9? Maybe I would take the Encounter. Other cruisers that have maybe a better DPM, maybe a better fire chance. When we're talking about the high explosive shells, I think Buffalo, and then when we talk about armor piercing, Buffalo has the second best AP DPM in the game, where the Almirante Oquendo is like 15th. Encounter, and let me double check. I'm pretty sure I can say it. But then Buffalo and Encounter have much better AA strength, where Almirante Oquendo has among the worst in the game. I think in terms of her strength, I think she ranks at like 30th, 35 out of 40 tier 9 ships in the game. So there's not necessarily, besides Wargaming throwing the funny button on the ship, there's not really anything I would say is really dynamic about this ship. So in general, I would prefer playing like Encounter or Buffalo over the ship. Buffalo with the more utility in terms of her consumables, contesting caps, right? Key objectives, key areas. And then with Encounter, like, you don't have to take a lot of risk with that ship because you get the smoke screen. What is that even called? I don't remember off the top of my head. If it's a crawling smoke screen or what. So I don't think Almirante is a bad ship. She just has a lot of competition. And I haven't even mentioned other tier 9 cruisers in the game generally. But I'm referencing those ships because this Encounter has 9 203s. Buffalo has 12 203s, Almirante Oquendo has 12 203s, right? So basically, you end up wanting to treat the ship more as like a fire starter. But again, there's other ships that, so to speak, do that better here in the game. But 203s are nice because of the penetration that you get with this. So you're pinning 34mm, and you see a lot of 32mm at the higher tiers. So on to speak. So this battle is getting closer to wrapping up, so I need to start talking a little bit more about just the ship in general, which, don't worry, we'll definitely be getting into that between the end of this video and to next. So besides the funny button we talked about, you do have the sorry, I just lost my train of thought. You do have the ASW airstrike, which only has a range of 7 kilometers, so it's not like there's anything crazy happening there. As here you can see example of us using the funny button. The Neptunes seems to be trying to angle against both, so then I end up switching out of the funny button because I'm just trying to get I'm trying to make him think that, hey, you can turn away now. I fired my guns, but in reality I haven't. But you get the ASW airstrike, which is nice. It would be very suffering if you had ship-based ASW, so I'm glad to see that that's not the case here on the ship. And then you also have torpedoes, which you're going to see example of me using next game. And these torpedoes, there it is. I was like, where the heck did it go? They don't have good firing, forward firing angles, so again, you're going to see that. But you get 3 per side that do a total damage of 16,633, unless you like buffed it or something, with only like 8 kilometer range on them, as the Neptune is going to take us out. But we switched back to our high explosive and we easily pinned the Neptune, so 1 penetration is all it takes to get the kill. So that's kind of the normal play style, where you're just going to be kiting out. You're not going to have significant influence in the game, I would say, with the ship, so to speak. Maybe if you get lucky from time to time. In this example, you're actually going to see us get lucky and going up against an enemy destroyer here at the beginning. So kind of my cheeky thought here, as I'm supporting clanmates in the destroyer, is to be able to run up close to this island and then step out from behind and surprise any potential destroyers he may come across. Now, in terms of other consumables you have here on the ship, I mean, you have, you know, normal damage control party, a normal repair party. I don't think there's anything crazy insane about it. You have a hydroacoustic search that picks up ships 5 kilometers away and detection of torpedoes 3.5 kilometers away. And then you get the spotting aircraft. So it's probably worth maybe taking Eye in the Sky, which we'll talk about tomorrow in an upgrading commander build video, just to... you're always wanting to keep the enemy team at arm's length. Most players will. There won't really be a lot of times you'll have the opportunity, so to speak, to be aggressive, unless the enemy team just allows you to, in terms of how they're positioned. Now, like here, we're going to actually run up on, I think it's a gearing in the smoke, because I have an island here, and I also have a clanmate with smoke screen if needed. So I can actually afford to take a bit of a gamble here. So it's a bit of a risk here. But I would like to get rid of the destroyer so he's not torpedoing our convoy ships. And there we pick him up. It is a gearing. And I don't use the funny button here because I just want to force him out of the smoke screen and see we get him to panic a little bit, hoping that someone else will be able to have him spotted still, which seems to be the case with the battleship. I think behind us is the one spotting him. But I want to have the reload, so I don't want to use the funny button in this example. Now here I could, like, he's getting low, so maybe it's like I want to make sure this salvo is extra accurate, but he ends up taking well, actually, he took the secondary from the Schlieffen before he would have died into torpedoes. So now Doom's going to smoke me up, and that's great, because a lot of the battleships, you know, there's the Schlieffen's 420s, and then there's a Yamato up there with 460s, and maybe something else. Or is it Musashi? I don't remember now. So, I mean, you saw just how easy it was even when we're stern away because of a lot of the battleships that overmatch you at the high tiers. Our 25mm bow really, or in stern, doesn't really help us in addition to just having the 27mm upper armor belt. So you're not really going to be bouncing a lot of shells, AP armor piercing shells in the game, unless perhaps you're going up against more cruisers. So that's kind of, you know, another thing where Encounter, I would say, has a leg up on Almirante Oquendo because you just smoke up and you don't have to take unnecessary risk or gambling, so to speak. And Encounter can just be a very annoying ship to go up against. So, yeah, I think you probably got my general thoughts on the ship. Again, in terms of the Spanish ships, I probably prefer this one the best out of the other cruisers. I don't have the Alvaro Dibazon, whatever, I think that Doom's in right now. So there's nothing exciting, so to speak, on this dockyard ship. I think it would have been like, oh, it could have been a dockyard ship that you missed out on, but it's like, meh, I want to go ahead and pick it up just to have and helping train up some more commanders for now that we're getting more Spanish ships here in the game. So I think as a whole, the playstyle of Almirante Oquendo is passive. It's a passive playstyle, and it's not like this ship is just available for premium or it's a tech tree ship for like me to say, hey, I recommend buying it or not. Either you have it now or you don't, right? But in terms of her playstyle, she's just a passive cruiser here in the game who is quickly punished if you overextend. You push up into perhaps a group of battleships or battle cruisers, and that will overmatch you. So you really begin to rely on your rudder shift. So actually, let me see if I can look at her maneuverability. I don't know if I can actually compare that here. Yeah, let's see. In terms of turning radius, you're in the middle of the pack, 20 out of 41. And then with your rudder shift, you're also middle of the pack, right? So there's nothing crazy happening there. But when you're playing more at the longer range, that more passive style, let me back up. When I say mid to long range, typically I'm talking about like mid-range, you normally define as 12 to 15 kilometers at high tier, and then long range being 16 kilometers and back. So when you're playing more of that, let's say that upper end of 14, 15 kilometers and then further, it's more easier to dodge incoming saddles from enemy battleships, cruisers, this, that, and the other. So that's where your WSAD hacks come quite in handy there. And so with the maneuverability in terms of her concealment, if I put concealment on the commander here, you'll get down 11.34 kilometers. So this ship may be, I don't think I'd normally say this, but if you're trying to get a little extra out of the ship, this ship might be worth not even taking Concealment Expert, like Steering Gears Mod 2, just to make your improve your maneuverability even more, to better avoid incoming salvos, stuff like that. I mean, because your rudder shift time would drop from 11.26 seconds to 6.76 seconds, and then, yeah, but of course you give up concealment, so then you bloom up to 12.6 kilometers. But you're not really wanting to be aggressive and pushing in with this ship. You're going to see another example of me being aggressive, and actually we're going to be kind of doing a pretty big risk here. You know, on this map, one of my favorite tactics I like to do is kind of swing out here to the 3 line and push up, because this team, I mean, look at how they're just up on the AB line. Their positioning is pretty bad. I don't know if they just decided, hey, we're going to just be at the end point. Let's just make our last stand there, but then it's like your backs are against the wall, and it makes it more easier for our team and destroyers and battleships to shoot you, right? So I don't know what their logic was here, but they really opened things up. So because we're paying attention to the positioning of the enemy team, you know, we can actually be aggressive here. And like the battleships behind me, I don't know why they're sailing towards the convoy. Like they should just be sailing straight up the 3 line, like myself and Doom here. So with the spotter plane, you can see we're just getting back into range now. That's why I think the eye in the sky would probably be pretty good, just to be able to get your spotter plane up more consistently, because otherwise you may find yourself at times throughout the battles at high tier where you're just you're not really in range of anything, so to speak. So I'm trying to see if I can get some more fires here. I guess that's the other thing I should mention, is that your fire chance without taking any combat signals or skills that further enhance it is 17%. So if I took demo and I took the 2 combat signals for fire chance, we could bump it up to 20%. So that may also be a possible thing to do here. But when I do talk about cruisers, pretty much almost any tier, especially mid tier, but especially the high tier. What's fun about if you're able to maintain your hit points when you get to the last half of the battle, like here we're kind of the last quarter, 25% of the battle, if you will, then you can afford to have more of these aggressive plays and giving up your hit points if you're really wanting to push in on an enemy. So here's an example of the forward firing torpedoes I was talking about. I mean, honestly, I would have liked to have seen them be better. I think that would help the ship. Otherwise, it can kind of more invites you to be kiting away, but the only 8-kilometer torpedoes. So I decided I'm just going to go for the torpedoes here. He's trying to do a drive-by. I'm trying to do a torpedo drive-by. So we're just going to trade here, basically, as we just end up killing each other and getting 141,000 damage as the game continues to unfold here with that last Schlieffen up there at A6. So because of your lack of armor, this ship is by no means a brawling ship, despite the fact that you get hydro and you only get 3 torpedoes per side, right? Maybe if you had more torpedoes, you could begin to talk about a playstyle where you can be cheeky, utilize islands of smoke to get closer in on the enemy to get your torpedoes, but it's not. They just, in general, this ship is just kind of like, it's an okay ship. It's not terrible, nor is it great. I mean, the AA definitely is terrible in this ship. It's kind of this mix of, well, it's got 2 and 3 millimeters, so like on the American line you kind of consider that more of a heavy cruiser, but it doesn't have an amazing armor scheme, so you'll be overmatched by a lot of high explosive and armor piercing in the game here at the higher tiers. So basically it's a passive ship, mid to long range cruiser. So 141,000 damage here with the 1 kill, 9 set on fires. The 3 torpedo hits there on Yoshino at the end. So at least you get to see a little bit of that brawling action. So you saw more of the passive action in the first battle. Like, I think that's the normal play style. of the ship. Where then we go to this last battle. I'm like, here's 2 examples of me being aggressive, and both were okay, so to speak. And we actually did manage to swing the top of the team, which I didn't actually think I'd be able to do here. It didn't feel like we did anything necessarily amazing, but the enemy team folded quite quickly, so it didn't take a lot of effort, so to speak, in that regard when they leave a flank wide open like that. Let's see, potential damage, a lot less this game, less than 500,000. You can see our fires, we did 43,000, if I can see that correctly on my screen. We didn't use too much armor piercing in this game. Definitely use it on cruisers and broadside battleships when you get the chance. Otherwise, you're mainly going to be firing high explosive here. Then you can look this with what credits and what we ended up with. So that's my overall view on the ship. Sorry if it sounded like really negative on the ship, but it's more just, it's got a lot of competition among the other tier 9 cruisers in the game that perhaps would be even more favorable to play, I would say, than the Almirante Oquendo. So yeah, other than that, it's an okay ship in the game, okay dockyard ship, nothing, you know, Wisconsin will be the most busted dockyard ship we've had thus far. And then you have other ships like, you know, shoot, I just forgot it. I was thinking about it before diving into the game. The tier 9 British battleship that just sucks. You know, Odin is still a decent, okay battleship. She's fun. This, that, and the other, but this is going to be an okay dockyard ship in my opinion. So I hope you like these battles today here in Mode Shuffle. If you liked this video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you subscribe, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, and tomorrow we will do an upgrade commander build video here on the ship. So until next time, take care.